I'm so honored to speak to you today. Thank you, Rosalind. Thank you to the Nichi Bei Foundation. And thank you to the members of the Planning Committee. Thank you for bringing us together for this Nikkei pilgrimage. It is a true gift to have this day together, to remember our roots and to honor our ancestors. This island, Angel Island, it's where many of our ancestors first stepped into a new country, into a new way of life, and into a new world. And because they did, many of us are here. For many JAs, Japanese Americans, Angel Island marks the start of the experience of our family in the United States. Irrespective of where we were born, where we grew up, where we went to school, or where we work now, many of us are connected by the shared Angel Island experience of our grandparents, our great-grandparents, or ancestors. I was born and grew up in Oakland. As a young girl, I attended Japanese school on Saturday. I went to Sunday school at the Buddhist temple. In college, I enrolled in Japanese language classes. And then, in search of my roots, I applied and attended the university in Tokyo to spend a summer there in Japan, my first trip. And then I met my relatives, cousins, uncles and aunts that I had only seen pictures of before. I was an undergraduate college student in search of my roots and discovered so much. I learned about gaman, enduring the seemingly unbearable with patience and dignity. I learned about gambatte, to fight for it and to always do your best. I learned about shikata ga nai because of the experience that many of our families had in the internment camps. I learned much from my strong and caring mother and grandmothers. My maternal grandmother, my bachan, Konoya Hirota, arrived here in 1917. Hi, Patty. My cousin is here. I didn't know that. My paternal bachan, Shigeru Sakaki, arrived here in 1918, exactly 100 years ago. Both of my grandmothers were picture brides, arriving here at Angel Island. They married my grandfathers, men they did not know and whom they had never met before. Over the years, I have shared my grandmother's stories in speeches and in talks with students. I do so because I believe it's important for young people, for all people, of all backgrounds, to hear, to understand, and to celebrate the stories of our ancestors and of the heritages that make up our incredibly diverse country. My bachan's stories are as inspiring to young people as their ancestors' stories are inspiring to me. And especially in times like this, when many immigrant and minority communities in our country feel worried and afraid, I believe that we share a responsibility to tell the stories, to remember the stories, and to draw strength from the stories we celebrate here today. For me personally, the story of my maternal bachan, Konoya Hirota, never fails to fill me with hope, with perseverance, with admiration, with gratitude, and with fortitude. Last fall, when my husband Patrick and I had to run, quite literally for our lives, in the North Bay fires, we lost our home and all of our possessions. And we were 1 minute, we later learned, from the person who saved us from losing our lives. Even then, I still took strength from my bachan's story. The hardest and saddest part of losing all of my things was losing my Japanese things. It felt like losing my past, and my connections to my parents and grandparents. My grandma's teapot, the imari plates, the kokeshi dolls, my mother's kimonos, the kabuto, or samurai helmet that my grandfather gave to my sons, and losing all of my family's history through artifacts from Tanforan and Topaz and Tule Lake. The very tags that they wore, I lost. My bachan. She was the younger sister who went to the boat dock in Japan to say goodbye to her older sister, her onesan, who was about to sail for America as a picture bride. But on the dock, as my bachan told me, her older sister grew a little afraid. My bachan's older sister decided, just as the boat was about to leave the dock, that she could not go. That she could not go to a country where she knew no one and where she did not speak the language. And so the older sister urged her brave younger sister, my bachan, to go in her place. My bachan was dutiful, and she did what she was asked. She took her older sister's suitcase full of clothes that were not her own and boarded the ship bound for San Francisco, clutching the picture of her husband to me, my Jichan, my grandpa, Masajiro Hirota. To this day, I draw strength from the courage and the optimism my bachan always kept alive. All across the thousands of miles of the Northern Pacific, I cannot imagine what she was thinking or feeling on that long journey on the boat. For weeks, my bachan stayed strong. She knew nothing about the country where she would live. She knew nothing about the man that she would marry. She spoke no English, and she knew no other Japanese people in her new home. And yet, my bachan always remained optimistic. She stayed courageous. She stayed hopeful. Her heart was always filled with gratitude. In her new home, with her new husband, she raised 5 children. My mother was one of them. In the war years in internment camp, facing racism and discrimination, she stayed positive, she stayed strong, she stayed optimistic, she stayed grateful. My bachan is my hero. That is why to this day, I think to myself, if my bachan could survive all that, and with her optimism intact, then I can survive anything, even the worst fire that I could not imagine in my worst nightmares. And that is why I also believe we share a responsibility to tell our family stories. We, each of us, has a role to play, whether it's at church, whether it's at our local schools, on our university campuses, or in our local communities. Young people are hungry for stories that will give them strength in challenging times. Not just young, everyone. And young Americans of all backgrounds can learn from the incredible stories of the Japanese American community. We have so much to share. It is in this spirit that next spring, 23 Sonoma State students will travel to Japan as part of the Kakehashi Inoue program. This is an exchange program. Only 2 universities in the country were selected to participate. It is an exchange program run by the U.S.-Japan Council. As part of the exchange, 23 students from Japan will be visiting Sonoma State this fall. And the program shares the name of the late Senator Daniel Inouye. This is because the program honors his legacy and also ensures that students will learn about his experiences as a Nisei growing up in Hawaii and serving his country in the military and in government. As I have learned and discovered in my own life what it means to be Japanese American, it changes. It changes with the generations, and each new generation has to discover that for themselves. I'm a Sansei. Here with me today is my oldest son, Dr. Dennis Masao Sakaki Wong. He's a Yonsei, half Yonsei. And my granddaughter Lana, who is half Vietnamese American, quarter Chinese American, and a quarter Japanese American. My granddaughter's middle name is Masako. She was named after my mother, her great-grandmother. Through her middle name, through the stories she hears from me and from her father, my granddaughter carries our family story onward into a new generation. She will decide what it means to be Japanese American for her as she grows up. She's 6 years old. But she will do so with as much as we can give her about our heritage. Stories, celebrations, get-togethers, mementos from the past, and memories from the past. The treasured items that I lost, but I will tell her about. And the feelings of strength and optimism that the men and women who came before her carried with them on the ships from Japan and through the years in the internment camps. We are all here today because of the strength, the perseverance, and the optimism of the family members who walked here before us. We carry their gaman and their gambate spirit. We are all here today because of their courage, their hope, and their determination to live the lives that became the stories we celebrate today. My heart is filled with so much gratitude for all who came here through Angel Island. Arigato to all of you, and thank you so very much.